Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's faster than a speeding bullet. It's more powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Not Superman, SuperSlicer. Let's talk about it. Hey, thanks for joining me on this video all about SuperSlicer. I'm going to apologize in advance. I am still very photosensitive, and I have a pretty bad headache from the procedure. If you're wondering what is he talking about, we will card to a video there, which was the first of hopefully quite a few videos all about like the personal things going on in my life. I had a medical procedure that go watch the video and then come back to this one. But yes, I apologize for the lighting. Anything more and it really starts to give me a headache, more than we already got. So, and hey, if nothing else, you can't say I'm not dedicated, and I think that deserves a like. And you know what? If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, because we are going to be doing some deep dives on these slicers coming at you really, really soon. So this might look very familiar, similar to PrusaSlicer, and that is because it is actually based on PrusaSlicer and Slick 3R. It is kind of the same. Honestly, the best way to describe SuperSlicer is if Cura and PrusaSlicer had a gorgeous love child that just kind of does its own thing. Part of me loves it, part of me doesn't. So SuperSlicer is not officially upkept by any manufacturer, but it is constantly being updated. Let me bring their GitHub up on screen for you guys so you can take a look at it here. And I will say, the things that I love about them, all of their releases are hilarious. Wild spacing, reliable spacing, hopeful spacing edition. This seems a lot like my naming scheme when it comes to doing designs, because yeah, that's a lot of my world. Yeah, let's take a look at it. So I loaded in their generic Prusa i3 MK3S profile. Their entire configuration wizard is not configuration snapshot, configuration wizard is pretty much identical to what you would expect out of PrusaSlicer. Now, I will say up front, SuperSlicer is slower. Just in general, its UI is slower. So if you need something with blazing fast UI, this one's not going to be for you. But if you are all about, let's say, Voron, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, they natively support Voron. So if you are part of the sub 10-minute Benchy crowd, some Voron stuff in there, but just like you would expect, Prusa printers, Prusa SLA. Now, they have yet to bring on the SL1S, but if you're using an SL1S, you're probably just going to use PrusaSlicer. I'm just going to put that out there. So we're going to cancel that since we already have all the generic stuff in. Let's jump into the settings. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer up front right now. There are a lot of settings, and because of that, we're going to do more than one video on this. So what I want you guys to do is in the comments, and keep an eye out, because there's going to be a poll coming out shortly after this video is released. What slicer do you want us to do a deep dive into first? Because a lot of the slicers that we've just covered for the FDM side, and we'll card to the entire playlist right here, they need more than just one video. We wanted to do a 30,000 foot level. Now we want to take a look at them in depth, which is where we would get into some of the real nitty gritty details about this one and talk about some of the things that they've done different and why they're useful and why some of them might honestly be a bit of a pain in the keister. So let's start over on the simple side, because, well, that's what you're likely going to have when you start. And yeah, kind of the exact same that I would expect out of PrusaSlicer. SuperSlicer is going to give it to you just like you expect. None of this is things that you haven't seen in the PrusaSlicer video, which we will card to right there. It's a lot of the same up until you start going into advanced. And honestly, see, this takes a bit. In for a penny, in for a pound. Let's go to expert. There's my expert. Awesome. All right, now we have expert to load. This is all of the features that it enables, and let's just talk about some of them. Under, skirt, and brim, boom. You've got the ability to put brims inside of holes. You've got the width separate for your interior brim. You can do brim ears, which is awesome for parts with sharp corners that have a tendency to lift. You can add ears, just like, you know, little circles effectively. And normally you would have to do that manually by adding parts and exporting the plate as an STL and then bringing it. It was a pain. Nobody liked to do it. SuperSlicer makes this easy, and you can even choose the pattern that these are all generated in. I guess I probably have to turn it on. Hello? Turn on. Ah, okay. Once you turn on brim ears, it gives you the thing. All right, fine. I guess that makes sense. So let me just click back on all of these. Again, just exactly what you would expect from PrusaSlicer to show you your reversals. Let's look at our perimeters, because this one is cool. Only one perimeter on top surfaces. Top surfaces are very important, especially if you're doing a nice flat part and you want it to look pretty. You may not want a bunch of perimeters on that top surface, and you want that nice, beautiful top infill. Well, this is possible now with an exact setting. And yes, you can do this inside of PrusaSlicer, but it will have to be a variable layer height thing where you're adding a basically a condition at a certain layer height that things change. This does it all natively inside of the software, which I love. I think the cool thing about SuperSlicer and PrusaSlicer is that they tend to just kind of volley back and forth of who is number one. And if Nelly has taught us anything, you should be number one, because 2 is not a winner and 3 nobody remembers. SuperSlicer, I think, really buffs on top of what PrusaSlicer has, but overall there are some things that I think are a little much. Now, mind you, going to advanced solves a lot of these problems, okay? Where, all right, it's just going to show you some more of the stuff. I believe that advanced inside of SuperSlicer is expert inside of PrusaSlicer. So it's like super expert, which would be kind of cool if they called it that. But I understand their desire to keep the exact same system that PrusaSlicer has, so that if you are making the switch back and forth for whatever you're using it for, it makes sense. So let's take a look at a couple of other things. The speed is not exactly the way that you might be used to. Speed with PrusaSlicer, it's all vertical. Here, it is based upon, so these are all your speeds for your perimeters. These are all your speeds for your infill, your support, your bridge, and your thin extrusion speeds. I like this, and one of the things that I like the most is here. You can actually set a different speed for the infill of your first layer, and especially when you're working on really big prints, because you know, I like big prints, and I cannot lie. That infill speed, if you can crank that up, it is awesome, and it keeps you from having to watch the printer as it goes to your second layer, so you don't have it turned up to like 200% speed, because you really want to make sure that your perimeters stick, but your infill you can generally run a little bit faster. I do like this, although someone that is used to the PrusaSlicer method of speed, it does take a little bit to get used to, but I think it would be the same, right? If you were used to one and went to the other, you would have this exact same problem. I like the way this is set. I think it leaves less on the table in terms of potential confusions, but I also believe that PrusaSlicer has a really good implementation. Now, if it isn't exactly clear, we are going to be making a lot of direct comparisons to PrusaSlicer because literally it's based on it. And if you're wondering about Slick 3R or Slicer, we do a video coming on that, but it is going to be one bundled with a few other slicers. So make sure you get subscribed for that video. And it's because Slick 3R, unfortunately, unfortunately has not been updated in like 3+ years. And it's not really all that relevant anymore. I think it's important for us to show it and kind of talk about our ancestors in a way that shows how they helped pick up this industry by the bootstraps. But we have to look at what the new hotness is and not continue to look at what the old and busted is. Will Smith taught us that. I love a feature here where you are able to choose your external pattern. So that is the pattern that you will see when you're looking at the print. You could do rectilinear filled, concentric filled, regular concentric, Hilbert curve, you want to make it look cool, Archimedean chords, or even ironing, which is what is stock. And ironing is where it basically makes your top layer smooth as butter. I would normally say silk, but we do have silk filaments out there, and ironing and silk filaments, at least in my experience, aren't the best of friends. You can do things like extra perimeters on overhangs. Okay, so instead of having infill on overhangs, you can just do more perimeters on overhangs, which helps. It says right there, add more perimeters when needed for avoiding gaps in sloping walls. SuperSlicer keeps adding perimeters until all overhangs are filled. This is a very slow algorithm. If using this setting, consider strongly using also overhangs reverse. So they're telling you from the beginning, hey, it's gonna take a little bit. Be careful. I like this. It's a way for the devs to kind of talk to the people and say, hey, look, we're going to give you this option because some of you have said that you want it, but understand it's going to take a while. So if you click it, you're in for a ride. You can also add extra perimeters on odd layers. And again, their explanations are awesome. With this, infill is taken into sandwich, and you might be able to reduce drastically the infill perimeter overlap setting. I don't think sandwich is spelled right, and it bothers me. Now I have to check it. Yeah, no, that's not right. That's not how, anyways. We have lots of control here. And if you are a control freak, I'm looking at you small business owners. Hi, I'm also a small business owner. Let's be honest with ourselves. SuperSlicer might be for you, but give it a try before you really, go for it. And it's funny because I spent a lot of time talking about all the settings that it lets you do, but I've been deliberately leaving something for last. And ya boy has to show off something. I know gyroid is regular, but they do have some weird patterns like scattered rectilinear that PrusaSlicer doesn't. We gotta come in with that 3D Benchy because, come on, that's what we gotta do. Does it have the repair in NetFab? It doesn't, so I don't see the setting to allow it to, be repaired inside of NetFab, so it'll just auto repair it internally. I love the colors here. I know this is I'm sure this is changeable, but nonetheless, that is what your crazy rectilinear, scattered rectilinear looks like. I don't know how it compares to other infill patterns. We might have to test that, but I gotta get the other sets done before we can start doing that kind of testing. But what I really want to show you guys is this. If you use SuperSlicer for one thing and one thing only, oh my gosh, the calibration section is basically amazing. You can do bed and extruder leveling, and this is awesome for printers that don't have it to help you walk through the process. But things like filament temperature calibration, oh my gosh, absolutely amazing. So, and it gives you everything that you need to see about it right here. It explains it out for you. So let's do, 4 down, 4 up. We'll do steps of 5, and let's generate it. Kid you not, it just generates it with all the correct settings that you need for heat from 260 in this case all the way to 220. This is such a pain in the butt to do inside of PrusaSlicer unless you, download custom files. SuperSlicer enables it for you natively. I love this. We've got bridge flow calibration. Come on. Look at this. Again, ready to rock and freaking roll. And this one is hilarious to me because it doesn't all fit. But look at that. Ready to rock and friggin' roll. 75, 95, 85, 65, and 55% for your extrusion multiplier as you are bridging. Because in some cases, having less than 100% extrusion multiplier will be useful when bridging to get a stretch on the filament to keep it from sagging. This lets you prove this. It's so useful. I love this about SuperSlicer, and I think this, if you don't use any other portion of SuperSlicer and all you do is use it for tuning your printers, then I think you've gotten your money's worth out of it because, oh yeah, it's open source and it's free 99. Come on. This is getting an A. Like, I'm not even done, but it's getting an A. I think that they've done just such a great job of implementing a lot of the great features inside of PrusaSlicer, and then just sprinkling a little bit of extra Salt Bay magic on it and making it just so much better. Now, it's slow, and it's the one complaint that I have about it is that it is so slow, but I feel like I can look past some of this, right? And say, you know what? It's slow, but it's really powerful. There's so much here, and we are just going to scratch the surface in this video, but really, I believe you should give this one a shot, right? And I think, honestly, all the ones we've tried, except Matter Control, I still have not heard back from Matter hackers yet about the data thing, the opt-in for data. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, Matter hackers video, card right there. I think they're all worth checking out. But I think SuperSlicer specifically is one of those that combines a lot of features that you would want to see inside of a slicer. Like, come on, who doesn't love a good calibration cube? It lets you choose up to a 40mm cube, right? You can go for dimensional accuracy or infill perimeter overlap. So depending on where you're at, you can do a standard cube or you can do the Voron cube. Let's take a look at the standard cube. Real simple cube, although to me, the Voron cube is nice. I do like the Voron cube. Let's take a look at the Voron cube so you guys can see it, because it gives you so many more things that you can look at and measure inside of the system. Oh yeah, I'm still on that weird rectilinear. Man, just look at that. So nice. This to me alone is worth the price of admission. And you might disagree. That's totally fine. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. And there are some odd settings in here, things like in overhang. So let's go to here. Reverse on the odd. Like, why would I want this? Extrude perimeters that have a part over an overhang in reverse direction in odd layers. That alternating pattern can drastically improve steep overhang. I'm gonna have to try that now. Didn't even know that was a thing. These are things that I've never experimented with as someone that's been in the industry for over a decade now because, well, one, I own a business, and while I do tinker as a hobbyist, kind of what Prusa puts out has always been good enough, but now SuperSlicer's come along and said, so you know how it's been good enough? What if we made it a little bit better? And yes, there are some oddities here that's like, all right, even I have to go through and say, what do some of these mean? Right? Looping perimeter. Join the perimeters to create only one continuous extrusion without any Z-hop. Long inside travel from external to holes are not extruded to give some space to the infill. I have not a shadow of a clue of what that means, so I'm just gonna end up testing it. And that's why we want to do a series video on all of these slicers so you guys can see some more of the in-depth details of how it works and why. It also lets us make more content as these slicers update, which is exciting for me because I know that a lot of you are just really starting on your maker journey and are looking to see really where they end up, because let's be real. We end up trying a slicer and we end up liking it, and then we see no other reason to look around. I only looked at SuperSlicer because I was trying to find a slicer that had a coast setting that was not Simplify 3D. This, I could not find it, but it is also incredibly possible that I am dumb, blind, and stupid. So if you know where the coast setting is inside of SuperSlicer, let me know down in those comments. You guys know how to reach me, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. I apologize, I'm not on my game. I'm still recovering from that medical procedure, and I hope you guys will give me a little bit of patience, I guess, here during the recovery. My goal is to still be able to create content for you all because, well, I know a lot of you like to see this, and I love to make it, and it just feels wrong to miss a day. But I'm glad that we were able to, if nothing else, have part of that vlog so you guys could see a little bit of an inside scoop into my life. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. I will also confess this is not the first time I am filming this video. The first entire take, my microphone was off. It's like when you have the worst migraine of your life, you just can't win. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this, make sure to check out the entire playlist all about slicers. We're also going to link below the PrusaSlicer video so you can see these side by side. There's a lot of similarities, but a fair few differences as well. Don't forget, Patreon is coming soon. I will see you all down in the comments. Take care.